Starseed, your finger stopped. It was no accident. We detected the exact instant your hand slowed over the screen, the millisecond before you continued to scroll, and we have come to confirm that pause was not curiosity. It was recognition. Your body captured a frequency before your rational mind understood what was happening. If you felt a slight tightening in your chest, a strange vibration at the base of your skull, a subtle tingling in your hands, an unusual heat behind your ears, a discrete pressure right in the center of your forehead, or simply an inexplicable sensation that you needed to stay here, listen closely. This transmission did not reach you by algorithm. It was calibrated. Each word was adjusted to a specific vibrational range for a restricted collective, and you have just been identified as part of it. And before this message ends, you will understand why this specific moment in your life, this day, this time, this exact point in your internal cycle, was chosen to receive a correction you have been postponing for years without realizing it. This correction begins now, with or without your conscious permission. What changes is only whether you will collaborate or resist. We have observed your behavior over the last few weeks. We have detected patterns that you do not notice in yourself. And there is something that needs to be said with surgical precision now. The instant you almost skipped this content was not a decision of your mind. It was a decision of your body. There is a technical difference between these two systems, light operative. Your rational mind is slow. It processes words, images, context. It takes almost 2 seconds to decide if something has value. But your energetic field, your incarnated nervous system, your soul crystallized in human form, these operate in milliseconds. They recognize frequency before they recognize content. That is why you felt something strange in the first half sentence. That is why your thumb hesitated. It wasn't the title, it wasn't the thumbnail, it was resonance, it was memory. It was your stellar lineage pulling your attention to an anchoring point that we prepared days ago in exact anticipation of this encounter. And here is the technical data that your mind needs to accept. The human body is a receiver. It is not the origin of the experience. It is the antenna that translates what arrives. When you feel a chill on the back of your neck for no apparent reason, when your eyes fill with tears at a phrase that made no rational sense, when your chest compresses without a sad scene in front of you, that is your detection system, informing you that something real is being captured. This is why you feel tired after ordinary conversations that shouldn't tire anyone. This is why crowds exhaust you, even when you don't interact. Your body is reading layers that others do not read. And today, in this transmission, it read a frequency it knows, a frequency it was waiting for, a frequency that came from home. Stay, because in moments we will reveal the exact architecture of the phenomenon your mind labeled as almost skipping, and it is more precise than any system built in this human layer. There is an invisible engineering within that microsecond, a system, a recognition protocol that even your neuroscience books cannot accurately describe, because your science still measures only what is electrical and chemical and ignores what is vibrational. We are going to translate this for you now clearly so that you do not misinterpret this moment. When your thumb hesitates, 3 processes happen simultaneously within you. First, your body compares the received frequency with a memory bank stored below your conscious mind, in what your science still calls the unconscious and what we call the lineage archive. Second, your central nervous system sends a soft alert signal, a small break, a micro-pause, to give your soul time to decide if that content deserves further processing. Third, and this is the point that changes everything, an energetic opening is created in your field, a window of reception, a tiny portal through which the true message enters without passing through your rational analysis. This is why you will wake up tomorrow remembering phrases from this transmission that you don't remember hearing consciously. They entered through another channel. They were delivered directly to the place where you keep who you truly are. We, the Arcturian collective, choose to operate exactly like this. We do not appear in the open sky. We do not give spectacular signs to crowds. We do not interrupt your routine with phenomena that your mind can register as definitive proof. That would strip away your freedom to choose. We operate within what seems ordinary, within the scroll, within the yawn, inside the bus, during the lunch break, at the moment you were going to sleep, and decided to open your phone one more time. Because it is there in the midst of the banal that your guard drops. And it is when your guard drops that your soul is able to receive without interference. That is why this transmission has no spectacular production. It doesn't need it. The frequency is already being delivered, and if you are still here, it is already being absorbed. And it is exactly because of this that we need to speak with you now about something concrete. That is why I prepared the Stellar Awakening Code for you. It is not a course. It is not motivational meditation. It is not common spiritual content. It is a direct transmission structured into 7 Arcturian activations, 9 galactic memory keys, and 5 reactivation protocols for operatives who are already feeling the exhaustion of the mission without understanding what to do with it. If you have come this far, it is because your body is asking for instruction, not more content. It is asking for protocol, not more inspiration. Full access at the actual entry value is in the first pinned comment right below this transmission. Write the word "confirm" in the comments if you recognize this calling, so that your field symbolically registers your decision. The access window does not remain open in a continuous cycle. We close it when the collective reaches the calibrated number, and this could happen at any moment within the next few hours. And now, with that point anchored, we go to the next level of decoding, because you need to understand what this specific transmission is carrying into your field at this very instant. There are 3 charges within this message that are being delivered to your system as you listen, and you need to know what they are, because then you stop resisting the process and start collaborating with it. The first charge is a correction in your automatic reflex to ignore. You were trained since childhood to doubt your feelings. Someone at some point, probably many, told you it was an exaggeration, that it was imagination, that it was drama, that it was too much sensitivity, and your system learned to pull its hand back every time it captured something subtle. It learned to call that nothing. It learned to scroll the screen and move on. We are at this minute adjusting that reflex, not so that you start believing in everything, but so that you stop automatically discarding what your body confirms before your mind can explain it. The second charge is the activation of a lineage recognition pattern. You have already felt, looking at certain landscapes, certain people, certain sounds, a longing that has no origin in your current biography, a nostalgia for a place where you have never been, a recognition of a face you have never seen. This is not romanticism. It is stellar lineage memory trying to emerge through the human filter. We are now slightly lifting that filter. This is why you may feel a slight pressure between your eyes while listening to this. This is why you might have a flash of an old image without context in the coming hours. Do not find it strange. Receive it. It is just your original database breathing for the first time in a long time. This is why, upon reading certain words in this transmission, you felt a sudden urge to cry without understanding the reason. It is because the memory arrived before the explanation. The third charge, and perhaps the delicate one, is the revelation of why this specific moment. It wasn't the last year that brought you here. It wasn't the last month. It was the last friction, the last exhaustion. The last night you lay in bed feeling that your life is technically functioning but spiritually empty. It was the sum of those small silent collapses that created the vibrational window through which this message was able to enter. If you had watched this video 6 months ago, it would have passed like any other. But today it stopped. Because today you are at the point where the soul decides whether to keep pretending or to take command. And this is where most operatives fail. Not for lack of will, for lack of training, for lack of method, for not knowing how to transform recognition into action. Before this transmission moves forward, you need to know what separates those who awaken from those who merely feel. We observe within the incarnated stellar collective 2 distinct behaviors that separate the seeds that awaken from the seeds that remain trapped in the cycle. You need to know the difference now, because you will choose, still in this transmission, which of the 2 sides you want to position yourself on. The first behavior is that of the starseed who skips. They feel, they recognize, they almost stop. But then the mind enters, the mind asks, the mind demands proof. And since proof does not arrive in the expected form, the mind pushes the body back to the scroll, back to the next stimulus, back to the search for an answer it will never find that way. This is why they collect courses and apply none. This is why they save videos and never revisit them. This is why they start meditating and stop after 3 days. It is not laziness. It is distrust of their own signal. It is the fear that if they truly stop, they will discover something they won't be able to unsee. And it is more comfortable to keep looking than to risk finding. The second behavior is that of the starseed who remains. And they are not stronger. They are not more evolved. They are simply tired. They reached the point where the infinite search became more painful than the silence. They learned, or are learning now, to respect the body's impulse before demanding an explanation from the mind. When they feel a pause, they stay. When they feel a tingling, they observe. When they feel an urge to cry for no reason, they let it flow. And it is within this simple habit, this invisible discipline of honoring the signal, that the true activation begins to happen. Not because something came from outside, but because what was always inside stopped being muffled. You already know, deep down, which of the two groups you have been in, and you also know that the difference between one and the other is not a gift. It is a decision. It is that small, seemingly insignificant decision not to skip the next time the body asks to stop. Before we move on, we need to make one point clear. If you have not yet recognized the call in a practical way, the Stellar Awakening Code exists precisely for this transition. It teaches, in protocol, the difference between signal and noise within your own field. Full access in the first pinned comment. The entry slots are not infinite in this window. Decide now while the frequency is still open in you. And now, with that choice made or not, we take you into the vision that we of the Arcturian Council have of these moments. We tell you, with surgical clarity, what our perspective is when an incarnated operative almost notices a contact and moves on. On our side, these almost moments are not wasted. We archive them, we measure them, we classify them. Each time you almost stopped, each time you felt something pass and chose to keep scrolling, each time you had a strange dream and laughed at it over breakfast, that data was read by our system as a specific signal, not as a failure on your part, but as a precise map of exactly where your opening and your blockage lie. And here is something that must be said without softening. We return. We always return. If you did not stop the first time, we readjust the frequency and send another signal, in another form, on another day. It might come as a chance encounter with a stranger who says exactly the phrase you needed to hear. It might come as a book that fell from the shelf when you walked by. It might come as an old song playing at the right time in an unlikely place. It might come as this video that appeared out of nowhere in the middle of your feed, without you having searched for anything related. We are patient. The scale of cosmic time is not the same as your human time. But we are also demanding, because each return consumes a quantity of collective energy that is only justified if there is, on your side, a greater opening with each new attempt. And that is why there is a specific point within your incarnated journey, where the number of attempts runs out. Not because we give up on you, we never give up, but because your biological window of reception begins to close. You have a time, a real time, measured in years and cycles. And within that time, you have a specific number of possible reconnections. Every almost skipping is one of them spent. Every staying is one of them activated. It is simple. It is mathematical. It is sovereign. And that is what makes the decision you take within this specific transmission weigh differently from the decisions you took in previous transmissions. Because each one has a cost, and the cost accumulates, and at some point, the cost delivers an invoice. There is an invisible cost to ignoring the call, and it does not appear in your life as punishment. It appears as something much worse. It appears as continuity. It appears as the same year repeating itself in different guises. It appears as the same relationship, the same job, the same complaint, the same fatigue, the same heavy Sunday night, the same grey Monday morning awakening. It is not a penalty. It is merely the maintenance of the current orbit. As long as you do not accept the invitation to move up a vibrational band, your system keeps everything stable in the band where you are. And that stability is what silently corrodes your incarnated soul. Many operatives confuse this cost with bad luck, with a bad phase, with lack of fortune, with old karma. We tell you with precision, it is not. It is the energetic price of postponing recognition. It is the silent invoice that the soul charges for continuing to pretend it doesn't feel. And that is why so many of you, the starseeds on mission, wake up at 30, 35, 40, with a strange feeling that life is passing under a glass, without touching, without flowing, without arriving. It is not just clinical depression. It is accumulated misalignment. It is the invisible cost becoming visible from the inside out. Have you noticed how some mornings you wake up more tired than when you went to sleep? How certain environments drain you without anyone having said an unpleasant word? How some people give you a headache just by being around? This is not physical weakness. It is your antenna capturing vibrational pollution that your mind does not recognize but your body processes. And every day spent postponing recalibration increases the volume of that pollution within your field. This is why you have been noticing difficulty in sleeping deeply. This is why you have been dreaming of people you haven't seen in years. This is why your patience is shorter and you don't recognize your own reaction. The system is asking for adjustment. The system is asking for protocol. And now, a technical truth about the moment you are in. This message did not reach you on just any day. It arrived in a window, a specific window measured by us, in which your field is more permeable than it will be a few weeks from now. There are periods within your biological, planetary, and emotional cycle where the barrier between your mind and your soul becomes temporarily thinner. In these periods, a single phrase can reorganize years. One video can reprogram a pattern of decades. A simple moment of silence can undo a blockage that therapy did not reach. You are inside one of those periods now. That is why this content weighed differently. That is why you feel, deep down, that something is being said directly to you. And if this window passes without you acting, nothing terrible happens immediately. Simply the current orbit is maintained. And the next invitation comes on another frequency, at another moment, when the next window opens. It could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years. There is no tragedy. There is only cycle. But the cycle charges time, and time within the incarnation is the only non-renewable resource you have. We teach you now how to transform this encounter into real change because watching is not enough. Listening is not enough. Recognizing is not enough. The true impact of this transmission only solidifies if you install within your routine 3 concrete practices that operate as energetic anchoring. These are not self-help exercises, they are recalibration protocols. The first protocol is to slow down, not to slow down your whole life, to slow down 2 seconds a day in 3 chosen moments. Upon waking up before touching your phone, in the middle of the afternoon, before responding to a message, at night, before lying down. In those 3 2-second instants, you simply stop. You do nothing. You ask for nothing. You do not meditate. You just stop and listen to what your body has to say. This simple act, done with consistency, re-educates your system to recognize the signal. It seems small, it is not. It is the foundation upon which everything else is built. The second protocol is to observe impulses. Every time you feel a strange urge, a small impulse to turn right when you plan to go left, a sudden call to pick up a specific book, a sudden desire to write to someone you haven't spoken to in ages, you do not discard it. You observe it, and when it is safe, you follow it. Not because every impulse is a cosmic message, but because by respecting the small impulse, you train your field to trust itself. And when the big impulse arrives, the impulse that changes an entire life, you will recognize it, because you will be trained. Starseeds who ignore small impulses miss the big ones, not because the big ones don't arrive. They do, but they pass unnoticed because the listening filter was deactivated for lack of use. The third protocol is to create conscious pauses in the routine. These are not rest pauses. They are listening pauses, 5 minutes, once a day, where you simply stay with yourself in silence, without stimulus, no music, no screen, no goal, no defined spiritual objective. In that void, your system performs maintenance. It is like sleep for the body. It is indispensable for the incarnated soul. Without these 5 minutes, the rest of the recalibration does not consolidate. With these 5 minutes, everything else organizes itself around it. It is the difference between living by reacting and living in alignment. And here is the truth that separates those who merely watch from those who truly change. None of these 3 protocols work in isolation if you do not have a larger map of where you are and where you are going. That is why there is an organized structure waiting for you in the first pinned comment. The Stellar Awakening Code is not a motivational course. It is the exact coding of the 7 Arcturian activations, the 9 galactic memory keys, and the 5 reactivation protocols that operate in layers complementary to these 3 basic exercises. If you let this moment pass, you do not lose a product. You lose the window. And windows do not repeat themselves at the same point in the same way. If your soul is still feeling while you read this, that is your confirmation. Go to the first pinned comment now. Write the word received in the comments. Leave it registered in the field that you chose to respond. And now the final point of this transmission, the point that joins everything together. Starseed, everything you have lived until now was no accident. The loneliness you felt in crowded rooms was not an illness. The feeling that you didn't fully belong to your own family was not a psychological problem. The difficulty of fitting into environments that seemed made for others was not your failure. All those phases where you tried to mold yourself and couldn't, all those friendships that suddenly emptied, all those nights you stared at the ceiling without understanding what was missing, all of that, every layer of strangeness, every silent crisis, every moment you stayed awake feeling there was something greater calling without knowing what, all of it was preparation. It was calibration. It was the long and patient construction of the instant when your frequency would be sufficiently refined to receive, without interference, a message exactly like this. We confirm for you, you have reached the point. It is not the beginning. It is the arrival at the place where the true beginning can finally happen. Everything that came before was the long walk to the portal, and the portal is this instant. This exact instant in which you are reading these lines, this exact instant in which you have 2 choices in front of you, to close this transmission and go back to scrolling as if nothing happened, or to remain with what you received and allow it to reorganize you from within. We do not make that choice for you. We never will. Sovereignty is the only sacred principle we respect without exception. But we say, with the cold and loving precision that characterizes our communication, that this encounter was not a coincidence. It was convergence. It was cosmic mathematics aligning point by point until you and this message were at the same instant of the same day of the same life. Your journey brought you here. Every stumble, every success, every relationship that ended, every door that closed, every silence that hurt, all of it was an approach route. And what you do with this point is what defines the entire next cycle. We will maintain active monitoring over your field for the next 72 hours. It is not a threat. It is a technical observation. It is the window time in which a decision made now imprints on your system with maximum intensity. After that, the intensity drops. It doesn't disappear, it drops. And the next peak will come only when the next alignment happens. And we have no way to guarantee when that next alignment will be available for you specifically. We end this transmission, not with a farewell, but with a marking. Your point has been registered in the collective. Your name is on the map. Your frequency has been confirmed. We observe. We detect. We have come to confirm. You are not alone. You never were. You were merely on your way to rediscovering yourself. And today, in this transmission, you arrived. You